All right, let's do this. Peanut, if you're staying in the room, no talking. Hello, and welcome to the PhotoWork podcast, the talky and touchy-feely version of my book, PhotoWork. Hello, everyone. I am Sasha Wolf, recording today in the home studio back on the Upper West Side of New York City. And I am joined, as always, by my friend and producer and today's host, Michael Chauvin-Dalton. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Sasha.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm still in my home studio, the place I've been for the past year.
Yes.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be home.
So you were gone for a while. How is it being home with all of your belongings, your books, your artwork?
Oh, my God. Yeah, it's fantastic. And I have a guitar up in Woodstock that I keep up there, but my electric guitar and another guitar of mine are here, but it's really my electric guitar that I miss the most. And so I have to, since I've been back, I've really just want to play the guitar all day. So I've had to behave myself, and it's just so much
nice.
fun. So yes, my artwork, my electric guitar, I think those are my top two things here that I really miss. But I came back with a little painting, actually, because a friend of mine up in Woodstock is a painter, and he gave me a painting for my birthday in the fall. And just that I hadn't done this in so long, something that I do regularly, which is find a place for a new piece of artwork. And so that activity, I just love it. It was just so wonderful walking around and figuring out exactly where I wanted it to go. And actually, I love it so much that for right now, I have it actually just on my big desk where I sit all day, because I just realized I just want to look at it. I just want to keep looking at it. Yeah, so maybe we should make clear to people that for a number of reasons, but the main reason was just because things were really hectic for me as I was moving back home, that we don't have a guest for this episode.
Well, you are the guest.
So I'm the guest, and that just saves us a ton of work and time that I frankly just didn't have. And then the next episode will actually be a conversation with Alex Webb and Rebecca Norris Webb, and we'll get back on track with interviewing artists. But today everyone's stuck with you and I for the episode.
Well, it gives us a little time to catch up and also thank our listeners a bit too for all the wonderful comments we have been getting.
Yes, it is really moving, and so I second that. You and I both get a lot of DMs and Instagram, and also a lot of emails from people, and so we've talked about this before, but we continue to really appreciate it. And it's not just the hey guys, great job, but it's also the feedback, how people feel about particular episodes and whatnot.
Exactly.
That's really wonderful. And so
they're pretty specific.
They are. It's great.
Comments. Yeah,
I love that.
It's actually kind of humbling that people like hearing us talk to each other, I have to say.
Yeah, it's very... Look, I think that, we've sort of stuck with this format because it has been a very difficult time, and it's been our feeling that people appreciate, just the warmth that we have for one another, and, that expression and sharing that with people seems to make people feel good. So
yeah.
Don't do anything to piss me off. No, I'm just joking.
I was going to say, if they only knew how much we actually hate each other.
No, never a crossword is actually the truth.
No, not at all.
I love working with you.
Yeah, we actually have some pretty good off-air conversations.
Yes, we do. So can I just implore people, so ask a favor of everyone. We've asked this before. I'll ask it again because it doesn't seem to actually penetrate. I think the only place you can really rate the show is on Apple Podcasts, but we do know that that's how most people are listening because you can see that information. You're privy to that. And in order for the podcast to be recommended by Apple, it has to be listened to a lot and rated a lot. And we are getting a ton of listens. So thank you so much. We're in the tens of thousands, which is really amazing. But I think we have about 60 ratings now. And that is, for the amount of people who are listening, it's just silly. So please, people, please just take, we don't, it's a free podcast. We don't make any money doing this. And
make money.
Right. We lose money. And that's actually true because we spend money on a lot of research and time and shipping and whatnot. So if we could just ask this one favor of people as a sort of quid pro quo, if you could please rate the show, just please do that for us. We'd so appreciate it.
Yeah, and I know not everybody wants to be on Apple Podcasts. Believe me, I understand that. But that is the one place really counts when, the time comes where we, hope to get some sponsors and want to, expand anything we want to do. That is the place where everybody looks.
And right now we're not focused on sponsorship. We haven't tried to do that. We're not even sure if we will, but it's nice to have in our back pocket should we decide to put effort in that area. But anyway, right now we're just soldiering on. And so, let's help each other out. Anyway, so let's get to it. You're the host. I'm the guest. What do you got for me?
Well, it's come up in a few episodes that you have expanded your representation. And I know we've spoken about the idea of how many people you can represent and represent well and what's too much and what's not enough and, how you decide. But you did, you have taken on 2 more artists, I believe. And
correct. I'm
curious as to that process and also the kind of conversations you do have beyond, that sort of initial call. Like when you say, okay, I'm going to represent you. What is that like?
So great question. So here's what happened. It's true that I felt that 15 artists that I was representing was a number that I didn't really want to go much beyond. And I think I'm probably going to wind up saying some stuff today that I've said before, but sort of hard to talk about without repeating some of these things. So I apologize.
Yeah.
We have a responsibility, obviously, to the people we represent. And so there's only so much work you can do in a day. And so the more artists I have, the more I feel like I'm sort of letting people down because I can only work on there's only so many things that can be, as I refer to it, as sort of front burner. And I will talk a little bit about some of the things that are front burner right now. So I've always sort of felt like for me, when I've gone above 15, it just sort of feels overwhelming. But all rules are made to be broken. And so I added Christine Potter and Danielle Bowman to people who have been on the podcast. Christine Potter I've known for a while. Danielle Bowman I've just gotten to know in the past number of months.
Yeah.
But they were just two artists who ultimately I really wanted to work with. And so let me take them one by one. Christine and I have talked about working together for a couple of years. And I think for that time, we've both felt like in many ways, it's sort of a perfect fit. I was hesitant because when Christine and I were beginning to have this conversation, Brian Skutmott was really starting to dig into his transition from shooting in color to shooting in black and white. And they both shoot large format, and they were both shooting in the American West. And I was nervous that although their voices are very different, their sensibilities are very different, the pictures they're making are different, I was worried that there was just enough overlap there that would be problematic for me and problematic for Brian and problematic for Christine. And, I work very hard to have some sort of separation between my artists so that...
It's like not having artists that are even competing with each other.
Exactly.
Right?
That's exactly right. And because I have, I don't represent the widest sort of spectrum of art. First of all, I only represent photography. And even within that, there's really only, I would say, two sort of broad categories that I work with, which one is what I would call straight-based photography, and the other is sort of process work. That's the sort of Caleb Sharlin, Chuck Kelton, abstractions, chemograms, photograms. But for the most part, the roster is focused on sort of straight-based work that people are making out in the world that they come upon with obviously a certain amount of staging, which is what happens when you're shooting large format, but not what we would call highly, highly conceptual and, and not photo collage and not photo-based artistry, not, so not Hank Willis Thomas, not Jeff Wall, not Gregory Crutzen. So, so I only have a certain amount of bandwidth in that way. Bandwidth isn't quite the right word, but you know what I'm saying. And so, yes, I'm very, very careful about that. So I was just anxious. And as Christine started to get further and further into the project Dark Waters, which is her current project, I started to really feel like there was more and more separation between them.
Right.
And that reality mixed with my feelings about this project, it's a project I just love so much. I just got to the point where I was just like, I really want to work with this work. I really want to stand up for this work. I want to be associated with this work and this person.
And is that a conversation you have with Christine or even Brian in terms of, look, listen, I'm, with Brian, I'm bringing on someone and they make this work, or with Christine, this is why it took so long.
Yes.
That kind of conversation.
Yes. So I didn't have the conversation with Brian. I ultimately knew it wasn't necessary. And I think Brian's a big fan of Christine's work. So I really feel like my artists are really happy when I bring on artists that they respect, because then, the team is like a strong team, really, and also it's like, it's good company to be in.
Yeah, you're building up the store in a sense, right? Yeah.
So, but I did talk to Christine about it, and of course, and I said, look, here's where I am, and we talked about this, but I'd love to move forward. And so that's where we are. And then with Danielle really just came out of left field for me because, she won the Aperture Portfolio Prize in 2020 last year. I was starting to sort of get to know her work, but Danielle had very little work out in the world. She was sort of not sharing a lot of work with the public. And I did the podcast with her, and I just liked her so much. I like her so much. I just think she's a fabulous person. And I found myself really enjoying talking with her. And then as I got to know, she shared more work with me, I started to really feel like I had a stronger and stronger sense of who she is and what she's doing. Now, I will say this about Danielle. I don't know how much work she would consider sort of complete, final projects. But I haven't seen a ton. And so I don't know how much work actually exists, but I still haven't seen a ton. I still really am only privy to 2 bodies of work, and there's not a lot of work within that I've seen within those two bodies of work. So with Danielle, there's definitely more of a leap of faith for me, but I have that faith. I have that faith 100%. And, you know, there's always the possibility that Danielle could start doing work that I just can't connect to at all. And that happens, by the way, with anyone. I've had artists who I've worked with for years who then started doing work I couldn't connect with at all. And we ended the relationship, you know, amicably and with a lot of love. But I just knew I was no longer the right person for them.
Right, right.
And that could happen with Danielle. As I said, it could happen with anyone. But there's definitely a little bit more of a leap of faith when, you know, someone's really young and they don't have a long sort of track record. But I just feel really strongly about what Danielle's doing, and I wanted to be involved with it. And so that's where we are.
So you're taking on two artists in your sense in different stages of their development or career,
yeah,
right?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And there's already, of course, plenty of work that I really, really love. It's just, again, there's just not tons of it. I mean, go on Danielle's website or my website and you'll see that. I want to explain something else that's really sort of interesting with these two guys that I've never done before, which is if you look on my website, you'll see artists and you'll see my 15 artists. And then there's a new category that says additional artists. And Christine and Danielle are in that category. And I've done something, it's definitely not a perfect solution, but it was all I could come up with. And so what I've done is, because I actually think that Danielle and Christine, they're both at sort of really interesting points in their career. I think Christine is really blowing up now, and I think Danielle is really on the cusp of something. And I wanted to give both of them an opportunity to see how they felt about being represented by someone who had given up their physical space. That's not quite accurate that I've given up my physical space, because I have a physical space.
You do have one, right?
But
the traditional gallery on the street.
The public on the street gallery. And I think they could both be approached by other traditional galleries. And I wanted to give them an out in case that happens. And so I didn't want to fold them into sort of the regular space and then have them leave, because I felt that would be awkward for them and for me. So I created this category that really doesn't mean much, except I'm totally committed to them. I'm totally representing them. But, you know, they might be gone in a year. Whereas the other 15 artists I represent, I know that we're together forever, sort of thing. We've been together. I've been working with these people for years and years. So anyway, it's a bit of an odd thing, but
it also works a little bit like a spotlight, doesn't it?
Explain.
If they're in a little separate category, it's sort of like, here are some new artists.
Yeah,
right?
no, I definitely think, yeah, it's actually a funny little byproduct, but yeah, for the most part, it was just sort of a way of like saying, look, I know you may be approached by, you know, someone with a bigger setup soon, but I'm here until then. Now, I don't want either of them to leave, but I'm interested enough in supporting them and in working with them that if that happens, it's okay.
Right, if they got picked up by a gallery that really interested them.
Yeah,
right.
That would be all right with me. So, you know, we'll see what happens. But anyway, it's super exciting. And that's sort of the backstory.
But I think it really does fit in with your idea about, not just representing artists, but helping them develop in their work. And one of the things I wanted to ask you was, when you do accept an artist, there's a known quantity of work that you're interested in, and there's probably a bump or an accelerated interest in the work when you bring someone in, and there might even be a flurry of activity early on. And then, of course, what happens after that, right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So with both Danielle and Christine, I've already, sold a good handful of prints.
Oh, wow.
And, that's what happens is that when I bring on a new artist, I have certain hardcore collectors who immediately, will buy work. And sometimes they'll immediately buy work by one of my artists who just has a new body of work. So it's an artist, they've already bought their work. And these are the types of collectors who the work goes into flat files.
Right.
They're not putting, they have hundreds and hundreds or thousands of prints. And they're building.
I've been in those New York City apartments.
Yeah,
yes.
It's amazing. And these collections will go to museums. I mean, sometimes they get liquidated. Sometimes they go up for auction at a certain point. And oftentimes they are pledged to go to museums. So I know when these clients buy work from me, I can tell my artists not only, hey, we just sold 5 prints or whatever, but I can also say to them, and this work is going to wind up at, fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always really exciting. Now, it's true that particularly with challenging work or work, I would say, that's not highly decorative, neither Danielle nor Christine are making work that I would say is highly decorative.
Right.
You're not going to necessarily buy either one of them to make a room, to match your couch.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this activity, you sell to these collectors, and then there might be a lot of downtime where you're just selling a print here and a print there. And that's really a normal career. Chris Graves made this photograph that was on the cover of National Geographic. Of the, it was the National Geographic issue of Best Images of 2020, and Chris had the cover, and it's a really moving photograph of George Floyd's face being projected onto the Robert E. Lee monument in Richmond, Virginia. And
yeah, it's pretty wonderful.
It's really extraordinary. And so we sold a lot of that print. And, we don't normally sell a ton of Chris's work. We sell his work steadily, but it's not like gangbusters. Again, this is a normal career. But this picture came out, and all of a sudden there's a big flurry of activity. And actually, so this is a front burner project now, actually, because Chris was shooting the dismantling of all these Confederate monuments in the South this summer. And we actually decided to make a portfolio for museums and university galleries.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And so we've been, working really hard on this for the past couple of months. And I think we have another 2 to 4 weeks of sort of very, very front burner activity with this portfolio before it's sort of, not taking up as much time. But, right now we're having portfolio boxes made. We had an essay commissioned that the writer Diana McClure wrote, and it's really beautiful. I love it so much, and made final selection of the images. And
are these made to order, so to speak, or is this
we made an
something
edition
that would actually be for sale?
Yeah. Oh. So we made an edition of 15, and before we sort of got too far down the path and sort of expenditures of both time and money, I put some feelers out to curators that I know and asked them if this is something they thought they'd be interested in, and they all said yes. So I actually tested the waters before we got in too deep. So we've actually pre-sold a bunch.
Wow.
So anyway, so this is a sort of a classic front burner situation. I have another artist, Peter Kayafas, who's working on a very big project right now. I've been helping him edit. And so I would say, right now, Peter, Chris, Christine, Danielle, Adam Katzif is working on a new body of work, and I've been very involved with him with this. And these are I'd say that those 5 are sort of taking up the most time right now. And then they will slide over, and other things will. Christopher Rodriguez is working on a book project, and that sort of comes in and out as far as, my time and effort and focus. But that's the way it goes. And yeah.
Was there something you wanted to finish up
no,
on that?
I had nothing else to say.
Okay, good. Well, along those lines of having actually quite a few, it sounds like, projects that are pretty active, you came back to New York also because business has been picking up, right? What's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
is the world opening up a little? What's happening?
So business was just absolutely atrocious for the first 6 months of the pandemic for me. My clients just were not interested. They were interested in trying to stay alive and figure out how to homeschool their kids. And I was preoccupied with trying to help my family and take care of my parents.
That's right.
Then I got appendicitis and, was in the hospital and was really felt lousy for a while after that. So there was that. And then things did start ramping back up in sort of late summer or early fall. And they've continued to sort of, the ship has sort of righted itself so that business is sort of back to where it was pre-pandemic. But having said that, like everyone else, I feel quite anxious about our future. And although there's a lot of good news right now and more people that I know have been vaccinated, whether they're teachers or they have a pre-existing condition. One of my closest friends has asthma. She was able to get vaccinated, which to me is such a huge relief because I really worry about her. And so I have quite a few friends and family now who have been vaccinated, including my aunt and uncle up in Woodstock and my parents. And so this is just all just such great news. But I also, like a lot of people, feel very anxious about all the variants going on. And I think that what the pandemic has sort of taught us, if nothing else, is that, your world can go upside down really quickly. And so I'm sort of in a guarded position. I feel thrilled that business is good right now, but I'm working my butt off because
taking advantage of that
I always
moment,
try and work my butt off, but I definitely feel like, things could go sideways again and, really have to take advantage of this right now. But yes, things are definitely, getting better and I'm really grateful.
Absolutely. Yes, no, let's hope it keeps going for as long as possible. And, I'm also looking forward to having more in-person contact with my students and all that. I've been doing a bit of that, and that's what we're all hoping for right now.
Yep, we are. What else you got for me?
So, you were talking about making these portfolios and reaching out to people and getting sort of a sense of what people are interested in. And, with business picking up and all, with collectors, is that also true of maybe less kind of conventional collections, university collections, other sort of places where art gets collected that we don't really hear about as much? Is that also coming back?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think a lot of universities are really well funded. A lot of private elite universities are really well funded. So I don't know that they've had problems. I think museums have had bigger problems because of the lack of visitors. And I'm sure people's giving has been down for museums, but I actually think these university museums have been okay. I mean, that may not be true. This is certainly not my area of expertise, but that's my feeling about it. And I think it's important to remember that there are hundreds and hundreds of these places. So we're not just trying to place things at MoMA.
Right.
We're also trying to place things at, Smith, Bryn Mawr, Wesleyan. Like there are a million of those places and they do have budgets. And these are teaching facilities.
Like curatorial studies or?
Well, they have classes come through and they use a lot of work for teaching. And so for a project like this, it's a real match.
So their collections are part of their curriculums as well.
Yes. I mean, I think that can be the case.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of universities are very interested in sort of political, social work, like this work. But, these things can take a long time. This is, we just placed a picture of Brian Skutmatz at the Harvard Art Museums. And, that was a year and a half from the time that they reached out to me to finishing this deal. And that's not unusual. So the thing right now with the portfolio Chris and I are doing is sort of moving very quickly. That's more that's more unusual than a year and a half.
Oh, okay.
So you have to just be really patient, and everything is a long game. I've said this a million times, but it really is. I would also just say portfolios in general are not things that private collectors want. So
okay.
I wouldn't suggest people start making portfolios, because for private collectors, they really just want to pick individual images that they're interested in. Portfolios, also, museums often don't want them either. They have to be the right type of portfolio. And this just happens to fit into that.
Maybe more of a retrospective sort of portfolio.
It's a whole thing.
Right?
Like you want
all the hits.
Yeah, and also something that's like, shows like this project is just really, encapsulates this moment in time of the Black Lives Matter movement and the Confederate monuments. And it's sort of, it's really of this moment and wants to be a whole body of work that's, illustrating that. But in general, portfolios are not the most popular things in the world, even though they can be these beautiful objects and feel like,
right.
How can someone not want this beautiful, shiny object I've made, this gorgeous case, this linen case with the name of the project stamped on it, and it's so beautiful and yada, yada. But for the most part, they're usually
I'm a sucker for those.
Yes, yeah, but don't let it fool you. They're hard to sell, and generally. Right. I know Jess Dugan, I don't think she'd mind my saying this. I mean, I know Jess Dugan has made a portfolio for her project To Survive on the Shore that she placed in a lot of university museums. She had great success with it. Again, that's the perfect type of project. It wants to be... It's not about the individual pictures. It's about the whole. And so you have to just be really mindful of that if you're thinking about a portfolio. Anyway, I don't want to get too in the weeds on this, but yeah, I mean, it's it can be very frustrating working with or trying to get work placed in museums because of how long things take. It can also be frustrating because you reach out to a curator and you never hear back from them, even someone you have a relationship with. That happens to me. I try not to let it hurt my feelings. If I'm being honest, it does sometimes. Sometimes I'll write to someone I know I think I have a warm relationship with, professional relationship, and I don't hear back from them. And I feel bad. But I also know that curators are getting inundated all the time, and it's overwhelming, and I'm sure they cannot respond to everything.
Right.
So to, all you artists out there, when, you feel like you're putting stuff out there and trying to reach out to people and you're not hearing back, it happens to me too. It happens to my colleagues. It happens to all art dealers as well. And so we're all in that together. And I'm sure you don't hear back from us sometimes.
That's right.
Although I try really hard to respond to people, but
I have to say in this past year, I've buried and lost more emails and have been late in responding to people more than ever. And it's just a volume issue.
Yep. I also think because we're all spending so much time in front of our computer, because of Zoom and everything, it's like, yeah, I think even people who are very good about getting back to every email are, less inclined to want to do that now. If you see an escape from your computer, you want to get away from it.
Yes.
I sometimes look at my computer now with like absolute hatred. That's when I want to just go play the guitar. But anyway, well,
yeah.
Why don't should we wrap up?
I think so. Yeah, I think we hit all the things I had to, all the questions I had, definitely.
And I'll just say this, if there are some burning Ask a Dealer questions you all have that we haven't covered in either the last Ask Sasha episode we did or this one, then please feel free to send us those questions and we'll try and get to them in a show. I mean, I think we're really happy to do that if we hear from you with something specific that we haven't already covered. I have gotten some questions that we've already answered in shows, so but if it's something new, please feel free to be in touch.
Yeah, and I'll just on a personal note, we had a little back and forth on this on social media as well. I volunteered at a vaccination center in New Jersey, and I have to say it was just a wonderful, fantastic experience. So if you have the time and the health and everything else, and you can volunteer to help get those vaccines out, it was just a wonderful experience, like I said before, and I just loved the interaction I was having with people who were just sort of full of hope and gratefulness and a little anxiety, hoping they got it right when they showed up, but it was just a really good experience.
I was really proud of you when you told me you were doing that. And no, it's really wonderful. All right, Michael, well, that's a wonderful note to end on. Michael, always great hanging out with you.
You too.
And until next time.
Yes. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
PhotoWork with Sasha Wolf is produced by me, Michael Chauvin-Dalton of Real Photo Show. The executive producer is Sasha Wolf, and our theme music is by J. Walter Hawks. You can hear PhotoWork on all your favorite podcast platforms. Please rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify, and be sure to subscribe on any one of those services or wherever you listen to podcasts.